Awesome. Let's just jump right into it with our first pre-submitted question. And that question is, can I list a product on Amazon under a brand name without a trademark? This is a really good question. It's a question that a lot of people have when they first get started because for some reason, maybe they just don't want to pay for the trademark, or they don't have they just don't know if they want to actually go forward with this brand. And so they don't want to make a huge decision right away and get a trademark, which could be expensive. I think on the low end, it could be like $500. On the high end, it's like $1,500. That's what I paid for everything included. It took about a year for it to go through, and it was like $1,000 to submit it, and then another $500 to, once it got approved, there was another piece of paperwork or form that we had to submit to officially seal it, I guess. So it was $1,500 all in for me. But again, that's like on the high end. But I wanted to show you here that there are 3 different ways that you could list a product on Amazon. The first way is by having a trademark brand. So that's when you go through brand registry and you actually have a trademark for your brand, whether that's a logo or that's a word mark with your brand name. The other way is actually listing a brand on Amazon that's not registered, and you don't need to have brand registry to do this. And I'll go over that in just a second. The third way is by having a generic brand. And again, you don't need brand registry for this. You don't need a trademark for this. But there is a huge disadvantage to generic versus an unregistered brand. And if you're not going to get a trademark brand, at least right away, I'd highly recommend going this route. And let me explain that for you. So with a trademark brand, and when you get into brand registry, there's a bunch of benefits. You get access to more reporting capabilities. They're called brand reports. So you can see brand analytics, like who your customers are. You can just get more information out of your audience or of your customers, I should say. You also get access to sponsor brand video campaigns, which are really helpful because you can run videos on a search results page, a paid placement, of course, but those campaigns are awesome. You also get access to a storefront. And so there's a lot of different benefits, advanced benefits, I should say, of having a trademark. And of course, there's the protection side of it, where if someone were to jump on your listing or do anything that is a little sus, or they start hijacking your listing, you're protected not only by the government, but by Amazon as well. Now, our unregistered brand is basically when you have a brand name and it's just not official. You don't have it actually trademarked by a trademark attorney, or if you're in the United States, that would be a trademark attorney. But what you're able to do, though, is you're still able to list your product on Amazon under a brand name, as long as that brand name is not trademarked. And later down the line, if you want to get it trademarked and if you want to go through brand registry, you can do it and you can keep your listing. And so that's a huge, huge advantage, because on the generic side, the benefit is you can just get your product up and running. You don't have to think about brand name. You can just list your product as generic. But the downside is, if you ever want to add a brand name to that listing in the future, you got to create a new listing. It stinks, but that's just the rules. Amazon basically, whenever you enter a brand name into the field right here, so when you're creating a listing, this is what it will look like now. When you add a brand name here, once you hit submit, it basically locks it. And right here, these are brands that we actually have trademarks for. So these are, all brand registered names. But you can see I could actually just click this checkbox. I don't have, this product doesn't have a brand name. And that will essentially lock this listing as a generic listing. And again, going back here, when you have a generic listing, you can't ever add to it. You can't add a brand name to it. You're sort of locked there. So this is the route you want to go if you don't want to have a trademark brand right away. Eventually, you do want to get to this point, but you can always start with an unregistered brand. Again, you got to make sure that that brand name that you choose isn't taken already. And then there is a little bit of a risk. Let's say if you start with an unregistered brand name, like let's just say I'm going to go with Jake Gets Buckets. And I'm choosing that because for this example, a mopping bucket was the pretend product that we're going to sell here. As long as this name's not trademarked, I'm fine. But also, let's say I sit here too long as an unregistered brand, someone could trademark that name and then kick me off of my listing essentially, or just have Amazon yell at me and tell me to change my brand name, or they'll get rid of my listing. And so you do run into that scenario. It's a little bit of a risk, but It's still better than doing a generic brand. But what you can do, and this is how it works, is let's say you put your brand name here. For this example, I'm going to say I don't have a product ID, but ideally you would go get a UPC, which you just go to gs1.org. We cover this in a few videos. It's $30 to get one. If you want to watch that video, you just go to our videos here, and Lenny does a really good job in this one, Barcodes Explained. So this is a really good video that will walk you through the entire process of what barcodes are and why you need to get them. But real quick, coming back here, let's say I have this brand name here that's unregistered. I didn't register it, obviously. I click next, or let's go mop buckets, fill it in here. I click next. It's going to hit me with this this error code. It's like 556 something, I forget. And all you have to do is click apply to sell. And this is where you go through the process of getting brand approval for your brand name. In this case, Jake Gets Buckets. And really all you need to do is, you don't need a website. This is optional. You got to select like the category. So, type in mop bucket here. I think that might work. And really all you got to do is have your brand name either on the product itself. I'm going to go full screen here because this is important. You either need to have the brand name on the product itself or on the product's packaging. And it's got to be permanently affixed. So you can't just stick a label or not label, like a sticker over it. It needs to be like a permanent affixture. And when you do that, you basically will come back to, this screen here and drop in a file of your product and or its packaging with your brand name on it. That's really it for the most part. There might be some little tinier things that you need to do, like email address, and maybe there's something past this page here. But for the most part, you just need to have, in order to have an unregistered brand, you need to have a brand name that's not trademarked already, and you need to make sure it's permanently affixed to your product or the packaging. And then you just got to submit that proof. So you take pictures, you ask your supplier to send you pictures before they send it to you. So you can do that pretty easily. And again, the 3 ways of listing your brand is a trademark, the most preferred way, unregistered brand, which is what I just talked about, or generic brand. But the downside of generic is you sort of can never add a brand name to it. So it's not the best way to go about it long term if you're thinking about creating a brand on Amazon. Good question also, guys. For those who joined, for those who joined live, we originally started this stream, and for some reason, like my computer just like blew up. It just had like a heart attack and just completely crashed, and my audio sounded horrible for a minute. The stream was down for a minute. So if you're here right now, thank you so much. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys staying in that experience, that rocky start. But cool. We're gonna keep going through these pre-submitted questions, but then we'll get to all of your live questions here in just a few minutes. So go ahead and drop any questions you have for me down in the chat, and we'll keep this Q&A rolling. And so this next question here is, do you still need your brand printed on the packaging after you enroll in brand registry? So it's a good question because I just mentioned how whether you're doing a registered brand, which is a trademark brand, or an unregistered brand, which is the example I just mentioned, you will need to have your brand or logo permanently affixed to your packaging. After you submit that, technically you probably could get away with not having it, but I don't know why you'd want to do that. One, it just helps your branding. You don't want to be another generic brand on Amazon. You want people to want to come back and buy from you, or you want them to have a good experience with your brand. You want them to recommend it to people. You don't want it to feel cheap. And so that's one reason why I would keep your brand and your logo on the packaging. In fact, I would actually go all in, and I would spend a little bit of money, unless your supplier can do it for free, on customizing the packaging. Creating that brand experience or that unboxing experience is what makes people feel better about your product. They're less likely to return the product. They're more likely to follow you on social media if you have that set up. They're more likely just to feel confident about your product before they even use it. And so while technically you probably could get away with stripping it from your packaging, I wouldn't do that for the benefit of brand building. So it's a good question, but I personally wouldn't ever want to debrand my product in the packaging. Next question here. How do you get sold by on your Amazon listing to be your brand name and not your business name? So to show that here, when you're on an Amazon listing, you'll see a few things. You'll see the brand name usually in the title up here. So in this case, Unger. you'll see it here in the store name, Unger, and this time it's all caps. This is usually like what's trademarked, so they probably have Unger and all caps trademarked. And then right over here, oops, let me, I can just scroll up. Yeah, you'll see sold by. Now this is what you call a first party product where this brand Unger sells it to Amazon, and then Amazon sells it to Amazon customers. So typically you'll see like brand names here, like you'll see Unger, or you'll see like businesses names here. Usually when you register your Seller Central account, it automatically defaults to your business name here, which is separate from your brand name. It's like Walmart. Walmart's got brand names like, I think it's Equate, Great Value. Those are brand names, but Walmart's business name is, I think it's Walmart Inc., I believe, or Walmart Enterprises actually. But if you want to change that, for some reason, maybe it's your business name, you can simply just go into your Seller Central account, go up to your account info and your settings here. Amazon's always changing their UI, so it's changed a little bit since last time. But if you go to store info, seller profile, I don't know why they don't just send you to that. I don't know what's the point of clicking into it. And then here you have all your different marketplaces. You got, Mexico, Brazil, Canada, and US. And then you click edit on each of these. You can actually just edit the display name. Oops. You can edit the display name for your brand right here. And then you can give yourself like a URL. So when people are on your shop, on your storefront, you have a special URL like you would on a Shopify website. But that's how you would change your sold by name, is just by going to your account info settings and then updating your display name, which is pretty simple. Awesome. Moving on here, we're trucking along. Also, I saw that live question. Now every Thursday you will do a live Q&A. I hope. The audio was crapping out on me a little bit when we first started the stream, and I mentioned it then. So yeah, obviously you wouldn't have heard it, but the last few weeks we've been really busy with a really big event that we hosted at Jungle Scout. It was called Amazon Seller Week. It was the first ever Seller Week that we put on. That was completely dedicated to Amazon sellers. It was a week-long webinar, basically. It was 2 webinars each day for 5 days. And so we were pretty much, we had a lot going on that week. And so we didn't have enough time to do a live Q&A, unfortunately. So now we're kind of back into the swing of things. Hopefully we'll be able to do these live Q&As every week. The best way to find out is just by, obviously, make sure you're subscribed, and you'll see our community post. I post a community post typically on Tuesday or Wednesday, letting you guys know that we're going live on Thursday. But I'm going to try my best to go live every week, because this is like the highlight of my week, talking to you guys, getting feedback from you guys on just anything related to like our Jungle Scout product, our YouTube channel, what you guys want to see next. And it's great just talking to you, because it's helping us realize, okay, we need to make more content around certain topics. So, yeah, this is great. Thank you guys for being here with us every week, and hopefully we will be going live every week. But cool. Yeah, let's get back into it. Where did I leave off here? Here we go. Are FBA fees calculated based on seller entered dimensions or upon the product scanned at Amazon's warehouses? So yeah, good question, because every seller, when you create your listing, you got to add dimensions. Typically, like you'll see them right here, for example. This is the seller entered dimensions, or sometimes Amazon does update this for you if it's wrong. And sometimes even it's down here as well. Yeah, you see product dimensions in pounds. And so it's a good question. Like, is this what Amazon charges your fees on, like what you say? Or once your product gets into FBA, they scan it. Is that what they go off of? And so the answer is the latter. So when your products arrive at Amazon, especially for the first time, it goes through what's called a Cubiscan. And it's like I believe it's like a 3D laser measurement system that your product goes through, and it measures all sides of your product. And then it gives Amazon your dimensions. And so that's actually why it's really important. I'm trying to look for a product here to demo this. Real quick, give me 1 second. Okay. So that's why it's really important, if you have a product like this, that you don't have like crazy baggage, or basically kind of what we have here. This isn't too bad, actually. But if this was to go through the system like that, it's not that bad, actually. But if it was to go through the system like this, Amazon might measure this right here as our longest point. And obviously we don't want that. We want it sold like that, or to go through a system like that, but you never know. And so, yeah, technically it's what goes through the Cubiscan system. And that's why it's really important to make sure your packaging is concise. Sometimes what's it called? Pressure sealing it. It's probably not the right word, but you suck all the air out of it. Is it pressure sealing? I can't remember. But yeah, so it's really important to have really tight packaging, but it will always go off of what Amazon measures, not what you put in, which is interesting why you even have to do it. But I think it's just helpful when you first list your product, maybe to have that there before it goes in. And also, obviously, people don't just use FBA. People are fulfilling their own products. So it's good to have that customer-facing dimensions that they can expect. So yeah, but that's a good question. It's always interesting. Like, does Amazon? I used to think that Amazon would charge me more based on the box that they put my product in, which kind of makes sense, but really doesn't. And then I found out later that that wasn't the case. So still learning myself. Next question. Hi, I'm a new seller. How many products I should launch at once? It's a good question. How many products you should launch at once really depends on your budget. I hate to say that, but there's no better answer, I think. If you have $10,000, you might only want to launch one product because you want to have enough inventory to order your first round of inventory. You want to have enough money set aside for creative work, so photos, videos. If you want to hire someone to do any of that for you, it's going to cost maybe a couple $100 or even a couple $1,000, depending on how crazy you want the quality to be. If you have more than $10,000, you could look at launching multiple variations of that product. But really, this answer always comes down to what's your budget look like, and don't try to do too much. We would always recommend, especially as a new seller, and that's where this question is coming from, is to launch one product so you're not getting overwhelmed. Learn the process. And then if you have a bunch of money left over, you can use that in advertising. You can use that to go get affiliates to market your product, or you can hang on to it because, trust me, you're going to want it to order more rounds of inventory to prevent you from going out of stock. Or worst case scenario, you have more money outside of inventory. Well, then you can launch another product later down the line, but you don't need to do that right now. I'd recommend one product, send it into FBA, use FBA first. If you want to experiment with doing your own fulfillment, that's great. In fact, it could be way more profitable, especially now with the new Amazon fees, but I would always recommend a new seller to launch at least one product, or maximum one product, I should say, and then start learning FBA. Because if you start with FBM and then you switch to FBA at some point, you're going to be in a whole new world. And so I would definitely recommend just getting started with FBA first, learning the ropes, and then deciding, or testing really, whether FBM, doing your own fulfillment, might be better. But at least you understand what the FBA side looks like. Okay, next question here. If a current product is listed in two categories, what category should a new product be listed in? Yeah, this is a great question because there's a lot of times where you'll be looking at a listing. Oops, sorry. Get to the right screen share. And so this is like what is this? This is like a regular mop bucket, right? Large cleaning bucket. It looks like a regular bucket. You could use it at your home probably. But you scroll down here to the categories, you can see there's two different categories. So the main parent category that Amazon's ranking this in is industrial and scientific. And I know this just because I've been in this category before, but commercial mop buckets is like a subcategory in industrial and scientific. But then you see household mop buckets. That's in a completely different category. That's in like health and household or something like that. And so what I would do is, well, one, you can see it's being ranked more heavy in commercial than it is household. You could always just open up both of these and look at the types of products. So here I can see buckets is a subcategory in janitorial and a subcategory within the main category, industrial and scientific. And you can look through here if you see a lot of different or similar products, and that might be a good indicator. Again, you might want to do that for the household mop buckets as well. And really, this is probably a toss-up. You could launch in either one. Another way to figure out which one to launch in is to look at the keywords. So in Jungle Scout, you can click search keywords there to do a reverse ASIN search. And what's really cool about this is it's going to show you all the keywords that this product is ranking for in the category that those keywords are coming from. And it's not the best way or the only way, I should say, to figure out which category to launch in, but it's one way that you can do it. Why is this taking so long? I'll show you here in a second. Probably just because I have so many tabs up right now. My computer is blowing right now. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Hopefully you guys can't hear the fan, but it's It's heating up. Either way, crap, I hate that this isn't showing right now. But you could, let me just do household mop bucket. I'll come back to this in just a second. But really what I would do is launch in one category that's ranked the highest. In this case, it would be commercial mop buckets. And then if you start selling in household mop buckets, Amazon will add that category to your listing or index you for it, just like they're doing here. So how these categories get decided is, yes, when you first launch a product and you list on Amazon, you do select the category. But if customers are buying your products from different keywords and they're coming from different areas, Amazon will recategorize your product, or in this case, they'll add a category to it. This just helps it show up a little bit more than having one, but that's out of your control. It really is based on the customers and how they search for your products on Amazon. Oh God, Jungle Scout just not going to work right now. This whole computer might not work right now, but that's essentially what you should do, is just try to find the one category, launch it in that category, the one that makes the most sense. And over time, Amazon will recategorize you or add categories if they see that as a necessity. Cool. Well, we got one more pre-submitted questions here before we get to your live questions. And that is, can we sign up for Jungle Scout to practice all the features before opening an Amazon account? Yes, you can. In fact, this is exactly how I learned about selling on Amazon and how I learned about Jungle Scout before I even became an Amazon seller. Before I even worked here, actually, I used Jungle Scout in my last job. I worked at an advertising agency, and I used Jungle Scout primarily for the keyword data to help my clients run advertising campaigns. And so I got to be familiar with it. And then once I joined Jungle Scout, I wasn't even a seller yet. And I learned by watching videos, by teaching people what I already knew, but then I learned along the way just by using our tools. And then once I actually started selling on Amazon, I knew exactly what I needed to do with the Keyword Scout, our keyword research tool, with our product research tools. Obviously, when it came time to look for products, I felt comfortable. The only tools within Jungle Scout that you need an Amazon seller account for are all the data things, or the sales metric things, like profit overview, which helps you see your sales and your profit over time. But everything else you can use. You can use our keyword research tools. You can start playing around. You can use product research tools. Obviously, you can do supplier research in Jungle Scout. All of that, you don't need a Jungle Scout or an Amazon account to get started with. So if you're looking to get started in a few months from now, you're trying to save up, and you have you have some money that you can dish out for a monthly subscription of Jungle Scout, I think it's definitely worth the investment to learn before getting started. So yeah, great question. This is a very popular way of learning. We have videos as well within Jungle Scout. It's called the Jungle Scout Academy. We need to update them, but there are some videos in there that can help you learn more about our tools, as well as just learning about Amazon in general. But cool. Thank you guys for sticking with me for these pre-submitted questions. We're now going to hop over to your live questions. So feel free right now to add all of your questions down in the chat. And for the next 30 or 20 so minutes, we'll answer your questions. So I saw one that came in earlier. And that question was, how can I sell in the USA? Like, what documents are required? Any shipping formats, trademarks? So basically, what do you need to sell in the USA if you live outside the USA? Really, it's the same as if you live in the USA. The main things you need to have, and these are things that aren't nice to have. These are things you need to have. That's a bank account. It doesn't need to be a business bank account, but just a bank account. A credit card so that Amazon can charge you for your Amazon account. Or if you just want to sign up for an individual account, you only pay 99 cents per sale rather than a monthly fee of $40 a month for the Pro plan. But you still, I think, need a credit card to have in your account. So you need you just need a bank account with a credit card. I'll just add that as one, actually. You need an address, a physical address that Amazon can send you mail. And that's very important because you may have returns that you need to get back to, that may need to be sent back to you, but really it's for your account verification. When you first sign up for Amazon, they'll actually send you like a little postcard, like a piece of paper, and it has like a couple digits on it. And they're just trying to prove that you live where you live. And it's also probably trying to get rid of a lot of bots too. So you'll get that paper postcard mailed to you within a couple of days or a couple of weeks of signing up. And then you just add that code into Seller Central and it confirms your account. So I believe that's really all you need. you obviously need, a name, but you just need a bank account and a physical address. All the other things like a trademark, um, let's see, like a business bank account, all that is not necessary. It's nice to have. It definitely will help you come tax time to have separate business than personal finances and a track record of all that. But you definitely don't need that. Okay, so just make sure you have a business bank, or I'm sorry, keep saying business bank account, a bank account and a physical address, and that's pretty much it. All right. Abdullah is asking, I have created a product listing with 4 colors. Awesome. Congratulations. That's actually really cool. I assume that's 4 variations, and that's not an easy feat to do. So congratulations for doing that. But it's now inactive because my inventory is 0. Okay. When I click on the ASIN link, I don't find the option to choose colors. Is it because my listing is not active? Exactly. And let me show you what that looks like. Sometimes Amazon doesn't get rid of them. But let's see here. If I go to RP pads, we have, so we're supposed to have 3 variations. That other variation is just not showing up here because we're out of stock right now. So yeah, don't worry. That is definitely just a thing that can happen when you go out of stock, and it's no worries really. Also, I realized I might have missed a question that was pre-submitted here. Let me double check real quick. Okay. Yeah, never mind. There was a question I want to get to real quick. I think it would be really helpful for you guys here live. It was technically pre-submitted. I forgot to add it. The question was, how do I know how many variations to launch when I first get started? And I think it's a really good question because there are some categories that rely on the main products having multiple variations. And that's because as consumers, when we're shopping for things like a t-shirt, for example, this is going to be a super simple example, but when you shop for a t-shirt, we're all different sizes. We all like different colors. And so obviously we're going to have different preferences. And when we click on the listing, let's say we like a cool design t-shirt, but we click on it, there's only a small. I wear large. Well, I'm not going to buy that product. I'm going to click out. And so it's really important in some categories, not just clothing, to have multiple variations. And so to figure that out, the best way of doing that is looking at the products that show up on the page, the top products, and really seeing how many variations they have, but then also checking the sellers that are, under 100 reviews. And if they're not getting sales because they don't have a lot of variations, then that's a red flag. So essentially, you want to find products that there are smaller sellers getting away with selling just one variation. And a good example of that is a portable ball air pump. And so I'm just going to go to the top product here. Now, you don't want to do this for some of the smaller sellers as well, but this is a product where, if I'm trying to buy a ball pump, I don't need other variations. In fact, this one doesn't have other variations. It's a top seller on Amazon, and it's just a ball pump. That's all you need. You don't need a bigger ball pump. You don't need a bigger needle size because they just come with it. This is definitely a category, I think, and there's electric ones here too. But even these ones, I bet if you go into them, there's no variations. So you really just want to go through the products on page 1, page 2, and 3. Just look and see how many have variations. But really just want to make sure that, you don't have to have variations. A good example of a category that you do need to have variations is a poster frame. I'm actually in the market for one right now, so this is why I pulled this up. But if you click on one of these products, this is the top product that isn't sponsored, the first organic product. And obviously there's different colors here. Maybe I personally actually want a lighter frame, so like an oak frame. And I'm looking for 18 by 24. Oh wow, they only have one variation. But you could see how many different sizes they have. Surely they just have them in different colors. But this is definitely a type of product where it doesn't matter what product I click on. All the ones at the top that Amazon's going to recommend have different variations because Amazon knows that sellers want options. And so that's the main thing here is Amazon just wants to make the customer happy. And you just got to do your research to figure out if your category is one of those categories that you need variations in order to make customers happy, which again makes Amazon happy. And then will help you thrust up the rankings. I wanted to add that in here. I planned to add it, and I realized I didn't talk about it. But hopefully that's helpful for planning out your variation strategy. But I'll get back into the live questions here. The sound is much better. Yeah, thank you. I Yeah, I assume you saw the duck sound from the beginning. But the question here is, can I ask how to automate invoices from business customers if we don't have VAT? I unfortunately, I have no experience with VAT, so I can't add any value to that part of it. Automate invoices from business customers. I'm curious what you mean by that, and feel free to elaborate in the chat right now. Do you mean from your suppliers? Like, are you ordering inventory every few months and you just want to automate that order and get everything kind of kickstarted automatically? Or maybe you're thinking of something a little more specific that I can answer to if you want to add it to the chat below. But good question. I just can't, unfortunately, talk to the VAT side of that. Oh, interesting. So you try to join our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is, let's see if I'm even logged into Facebook on this computer, is Amazon Competitive Edge, ACE. And if you apply to it, you should be able to get in right now. I'm curious maybe if you're in a different group or you saw a different group there. We do have somebody that runs it. I can reach out to them immediately after this to see if there's, for some reason, any pending registrations or invitations that just didn't go through. But if you're looking to join our Facebook group, again, it's Amazon Competitive Edge, and you can look that up on Facebook. And it's basically just an awesome group of Amazon sellers that are going to help each other launch on Amazon. We don't really try to go in there and sell. Obviously, it's just we want it to be a community of Amazon sellers. From time to time, we'll drop in some very helpful like reports or anything that we're working on. But it's an awesome group. Feel free to join. Again, I'll check and see that we're on top of adding people to it. But you should hopefully be able to get in to that group without any troubles. Good question. How can you check niche conversion rate? So there's no way, unfortunately, to see a conversion rate of products that you don't own. Amazon's not giving out information of other sellers' data like that. So that's a hard one. What you can do, though, is just there's two metrics that will help you essentially figure out what I assume you're trying to get at, which is demand. Like, how often are these products being sold? We have sales estimates in Jungle Scout, which are going to be really helpful for figuring out demand. So back to these portable ball air pumps, you can see demand by looking at average monthly sales of all the categories or all the products on page 1 here, which is 48 different products right now. You can also see each product's monthly units sold and their daily units sold. You can even click into these graphs here. Usually pops up. I don't know why. I think I have to restart my Jungle Scout account. Ever since my computer crashed, it's just not happy with me right now. But anyways, you have a bunch of data here for demand. And then another way to get demand data from Jungle Scout is keyword search volume data. So if you use our keyword scout tool and you type in any keyword like portable ball air pump, or you reverse ASIN search a product on Amazon, which just essentially looks at all the keywords that individual product is ranking for, then you'll see a bunch of different metrics in there, but the main one is exact monthly search volume. And you can see how many people are typing that in, and you can see kind of see like the seasonality of that keyword and see, is that a trending keyword? Is it a keyword that has huge seasonality peaks, or is it a keyword that's trending down? And so with sales estimates and keyword search volume, those are the two best ways to verify demand. Unfortunately, there's no way to find niche conversion rate for everybody else. Essentially benchmarking your conversion rate with others. So yeah, it's a tough one, but hopefully that helps you. And then for tracking your own conversion rate on Amazon, if you guys don't know, it's really helpful to track your conversion rate. So Amazon doesn't make it easy for some reason, but if you go to your business reports and you do it I like to do it by child ASIN. I'm just going to do it for our P-pads over this past month. All you got to do is, so there is a sort of a conversion rate up here, and it should work well enough, but unit session percentage is basically a conversion rate. But this takes into account how many units people buy rather than the orders. And so you'd rather see when somebody comes to my listing, how often are they likely to make a purchase? What this is showing is when someone comes to my listing and they buy X amount of units, it's basically looking at your impressions or your sessions by your units sold rather than your impressions by your orders, by the people that are coming in. And so what I like to do actually is just take my total sessions and divide that by, instead of units ordered, total order items. And here you can see it's a little bit smaller. So 275 people bought, but that equated to 298 units. And so unit session percentage is looking at the units ordered and not the people. So again, you kind of just do the math on total order items. That will give you your conversion rate essentially on Amazon. And it should be pretty similar to this. It's probably going to be like 11, slightly under 11.33 in this case, at least. But yeah, great question. How can we get weight shipping charges from Alibaba supplier? Please give any average example per product. Yeah, so your shipping weight, if you're trying to get like a quote, I assume, it's all going to just come from your supplier, and it's got to be after you've submitted your product design ideas. So if you're just going to buy a generic product on Amazon with no modifications to it, they should actually be able to give you a pretty good quote right away. But if you're going to make any modifications, whether it's to the product itself or the packaging, you have to wait until you kind of discuss those with your supplier, because if they're going to modify anything, it's probably going to modify their generic dimensions and weight. So what I would do is reach out to the supplier, ask them what the weight and dimensions typically look like for the generic product. If you're going to make any changes, you can still ask them before they even make it. They should have a good idea. And then you can say, okay, I'm going to buy 1,000 units. What's the cost to ship it? And you can give them, if you have certain shipping requirements, like you want to do it on the ocean, which is going to be cheaper, or you want to get it there faster via air, then they'll give you 2 different quotes if you want. But the best way of getting that quote will just be asking your supplier with a quote that includes all the units that you're going to order. So rather than just saying like one product, like, what's the cost of shipping one product, just think about your first inventory order and get a quote for that, and then divide that by the amount of units, and that will give you your per unit cost to ship. So hopefully that's a good, I guess, way to get started with figuring out your shipping cost. All right, this is a question about our new revenue calculator. Let me try to actually get my Jungle Scout going again, because I'm just going to sign out and sign in so I can start showing some of this stuff. But yeah, for those who don't know, we did redesign our revenue calculator, which is awesome because Amazon's changed their fees, and every software, including Jungle Scout, had to kind of catch up in terms of making sure that our numbers match the real Amazon cost or the updated cost. So we did update it, and it's awesome. You can now like edit everything, whereas in the past you had to, things were kind of like grayed out, so you can't edit like dimensions. So it's really cool. But let me get to this question. It's so the new revenue calculator, it's indicating a potential discrepancy in the displayed percentage. It's showing profit margin or ROI. So yeah, to answer your question, what it will display is your ROI percentage, which we always say shoot for at least 100% or more. If you're using Amazon's revenue calculator, I believe they use net margin, which is essentially it's when you're doing product research, it's essentially the same thing, ROI and net margin. The numbers are different. We shoot for at least a 35% net margin, and we shoot for 100% ROI, which they're pretty close together when you do like the conversion of it. But yeah, let me try to get mine up here. I'm trying to sign back into everything after my computer crashed, and that's proven to be really fun. Let's see here. Trying to get that so I can show you guys. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Probably won't be able to do this fast enough. But yeah, either way, hopefully you enjoy the new calculator. Like I said, I think it's awesome that you get to customize more. You get to customize it more. Really bugging me that I can't get in right now. Okay. But yeah, it should be showing ROI percentage. And we have a bunch of videos on it, not this new one, but if you're trying to look for more help on using it, check out our latest How to Sell on Amazon video, which is the first video on our YouTube channel. Yeah, and a similar question, how to calculate my ROI. That is essentially going to be what we, for product research purposes, the ROI is not going to include things like advertising because you haven't advertised yet. But it is going to include your Amazon fulfillment costs, so your pick and pack fees. It's going to include your manufacturing cost, so how much it costs your supplier to make your product. Also, you can include it in there, or it could be a separate line item for shipping that product from your manufacturer's warehouse into Amazon. The other charges, storage cost is another one that you want to add in there. And then I still like I said, in terms of product research, you don't add advertising cost to it because you technically haven't advertised yet. And you don't know what that true cost will be to acquire a customer with paid ads. But I always like to add in a buffer. Greg Mercer, he's always mentioned about 20% of your sales price should be planned to spend on advertising. So if your product, is $100, you might need to spend $20 to advertise your product. Now that's a huge number, but I like to always add in at least $5 in some cases, just as a rough estimate, including advertising cost. And I like to be really conservative there. Like I like to really overestimate my cost, because that's one thing that if you get wrong, or if you really underestimate, it's going to kill the product unless you just keep raising your prices. But then at that point, your conversion rate might really suffer. So yeah, you want to make sure that you got all your cost in check, or at least like your estimated cost. I mean, now you don't need to be perfect. Like if you're just doing high level product research, like if you're just coming up with ideas, you don't have to have every cost down to the dollar. You really don't. You just want to get a good idea by getting estimates from suppliers. And even loose estimates will work, but enough to give you an idea of like, okay, there's some wiggle room here. And this other product that I looked at, there's like hardly any wiggle room. So if my estimates are off, then I'm screwed. And so that's why you want to do, high level estimates, but be very conservative. And if you do that for enough products, you'll see, some products are just really, are a lot more profitable than your other products, even with just estimates. So hopefully that helps. Again, I'm trying to log into Jungle Scout. It's really frustrating. I can't do this right now. Okay. Sorry, hang with me 1 second here. Okay, cool. So I'll get to some more questions. I think I messed up and I have to reset my password now, which is horrible. Okay. What should I do? I'm not getting organic sales, only getting sales with PPC running. This is a very common issue, especially for new products. And it's okay. If you're having issues with your new product getting organic sales, you're in the majority. Until you basically have enough reviews, until Amazon's really confident in your product, they might not show you up organically for too many keywords. What you can do, though, is identify long tail keywords that are going to be way less competitive than these bigger keywords that I assume you're trying to rank on as well, and go after those keywords with advertising campaigns. Now, I know you want to get kind of rid of only using advertising to get sales, but this is what you need to do in order to get ranked on organic keywords. You need to use advertising to kind of kick that flywheel into effect. And so we have a really good video on this. I think it's one of my favorite videos that we did, but there's two videos actually I'd point you to. Is this one here is do list defined long tail keywords for Amazon PPC. And the other one is this one right here, how to outrank your competitors on Amazon. And so in that video, or those videos, we show you how to find long tail keywords. And those are keywords that you want to plug into your advertising campaigns for a few weeks or hopefully even a few months. I would give it some time to see some effect on your organic rankings. But then use a tool like Rank Tracker within Jungle Scout to see if that's actually working. If your advertising campaign spend is actually making a difference in your organic rankings. But I would recommend, in order to get more organic sales, is to focus heavily on long tail keywords. You might not see the volume you want to see there in terms of sales, but trust me, I think it's going to pay off for you once you start to see your organic rankings rise on those lower volume keywords. The high volume keywords are always great to include in your listing, But you really want to make sure you're advertising long tail keywords. It's really important for profitability to start seeing an even spread of advertising and organic sales. But it doesn't happen overnight. It's definitely one of those things that takes weeks to see an improvement in your organic ranking. Yeah. Let's see here. Next question is, the barcode usually the same for all units in one ASIN? I'm trying to download just one label and customize it as I use poly bags to pack my products, then duplicate it. So good question. So for barcodes, your UPC barcode, you will need to have a separate barcode if the product's a different product, even if it's a very different variation. Now, if you're ordering 1,000 units of one product, it is the same barcode that goes on all of them. So in this case, trying to download just one label and customize it as I use poly bags. Yeah, so I believe that's what you're asking here. You have like essentially one product, but you're ordering a ton of units for it. So you would only need one label. That's how it works. It's a little confusing, especially when you add like variations to the mix, where you're like, oh, it's still the same product, just different colors. But even that has to have a different UPC barcode. So that's the rule. Hopefully that's simplified enough, and hopefully that answered your question. But yeah, if the product's different, even in the slightest form, it needs a new barcode. If my PPC is run by some agency, how do I evaluate their performance? Good question. So I used to work at an agency, and there's good and bad things about working with agencies. One, I'll just tell you a personal experience here. When we had a good month for a client, we gave it to them straight. We said, this is what we did. This is the effect. Are you happy? And obviously we want their business to keep coming back. So we're like really hyping ourselves up. Now, when something bad happened, we would look at it one or two ways. The first way is, well, was there any negative that came from that bad? And what I mean by that is, let's say your ACOS it goes up, right? Which is a bad thing. But your organic sales and organic rank increased. That is usually a byproduct of more spend on Amazon. And sometimes when you spend more on Amazon, your ACOS goes up. But the tacos, so total advertising cost of sales, which includes your organic sales as well, if that is going down, which is a good thing, it could be worth your ACOS going up, which is a bad thing. And so sometimes we told the clients, hey, yes, I understand the ACOS went up, but look at this, tacos went down, which is a good thing. We're getting better at our organic rank. And so long-term, this is the best strategy for us to essentially, we can start actually lowering our ad spend now because our organic rank is picked up. That's one side of the equation. The other side is if something went bad and we didn't see any positive, you might still try to spin it in a way that makes it feel like, you did some good. Like you might say, hey, we're trying to increase the rank. And that could be a good idea, but it didn't actually happen. And so what I would look at if you're trying to really analyze your agency's performance is, don't just look at ACOS. ACOS is important, but also look at your tacos. Look at your organic rank. Look at your sponsored rank over time for certain keywords, and be realistic with yourself. The worst thing that an agency can do is have a client that has two main goals. And those two main goals are always, I want to increase my sales and increase my profitability. And those two goals, everybody wants to do. But it's very, very hard to do both very effectively at the same time. Typically, you either have to raise sales and sometimes sacrifice profitability or just keep it at bay in order to eventually flip the switch to where you can actually be more profitable. So make sure you have very clear goals. Have a 1A and a 1B is what I would call it. Have a North Star. The North Star could be you want to gain rank, and therefore you're okay with dropping in profitability slightly. Or the North Star could be, I just want to be profitable. Let's lower some ad spend. Let's lower my bids. I don't care if my sales go down. I don't care if my market share goes down. I don't care if my keyword rankings go down. Make me more profitable. But have a goal, have a North Star goal, and then judge them based on that, because the metrics will be different depending on what your North Star goal is. But the worst thing you can do, again, is have two of those North Star goals, and you just never win. But hopefully that helps you. Tacos for all-around performance, ACOS for profitability, and sales and market share for a sales-driven goal. Those are some good metrics to look at. New seller, awesome. Congratulations on getting started or potentially getting started wherever you're at in your journey. That is awesome that you're willing or wanting to jump into the Amazon FBA world. To answer your question about AGL, we've used it. We love it. It streamlines the process of getting our products from the supplier to the Amazon warehouse. It also allows us to send it into AWD, which is a 3P storage facility that Amazon operates. And that's been very helpful for us from an operational standpoint because we work on our Jungle Creations account, which is the account here at Jungle Scout, part-time essentially. Like we are content creators first, and then we work on the business with any hours that we have left over in the day. So it's nice to have this operational efficiency by just using Amazon. It also is a little cheaper slightly than what we were using in the past, but cost always change depending on, what you're ordering, how much you're ordering, time of the year. So at least in our minimal experience, we found it to actually be pretty much the same or a little bit cheaper as well. So in my experience, it's been good and I would recommend it, especially now that Amazon's added this new FBA inbound fee, which charges you if you want to send your inventory to 1 or 2 locations rather than like 5, 6, or 7 locations. So I would recommend at least testing it. If you have a standard size product. If you have an oversized product, I don't know if you can use AGL, but would definitely recommend it with my limited experience using it. How do I calculate your inventory? Is this question about how much to order or, feel free to expand on that. We'll have to jump off here in a little bit. I have a podcast recording I got to jump into, but feel free to expand on that. And if I don't get to that specific question with the time we have left, feel free to drop it as a comment under this video, which, like I said earlier, we'll bring those up in next week's videos first, in like the pre-submitted question part of the video. All right. So can you explain in brief what is day parting in PPC? Yeah. So day parting is, first off, it's amazing. I just added it to one of my clients' accounts. But day parting is essentially, if you look at your sales, you may get more sales on the weekdays, and you may get more sales during a time frame like 9 to 5, for example, when people like business buyers are shopping for your products. And then when people go home, at least in these business roles, they're not really looking for products to buy for their business. But there are certain industries where, after 5 p.m. when people get off work, they do the majority of their shopping. And so essentially what day parting is it allows you to adjust your bids and budgets based on the time of the day, so the hours, and the day of the week. So you can find out very quickly through a software like Cobalt, which, if you're unfamiliar, is Jungle Scout's enterprise tool. And that can show you basically like where you're getting your sales from, what hours of the day, what days of the week. And so, for example, on one of the clients that I work for, weekend performance is horrible. Our ACOS throughout the week is like 20%, 19, 18%. And on Saturday and Sunday, that ACOS goes to like 30 and 40%, even though it spends the same amount of money. So we think people are just like kind of browsing. They're like looking for products, they're saving them. And then on Monday and Tuesday, they might be buying it, or maybe they don't, but for some reason, our weekend performance is horrible. So we've actually lowered our bids by 40% on the weekends, and our ACOS went from 30 or 40% typically to like 19%, back to what it should be. And so, day parting is very powerful for really optimizing your ad spend, your bids and budgets, depending on the time of the day, which you can do hourly, and day of the week. So hopefully that helps clear up your question there. Definitely recommend it if you have access to a tool. Again, Jungle Scout Cobalt is the enterprise tool. You can learn more about it by just going to our website and clicking the enterprise part on the website. I think that's what it's called, enterprise. Cool. I'm just getting started. It's been 21 days now, and my account is still not verified. Typically, you'll get an email from Amazon if it hasn't been verified, or if you got denied. If that hasn't happened yet, you haven't got that denial letter, no worries. It might just be taking more time than usual. Some people get approved within a week. Some people get approved within a month or two. I'd give it a little bit of time, and if you get an email from Amazon, they'll typically tell you exactly what went wrong. It might have just been like a bank account wasn't submitted correctly, or your address was off, or something like that. So just give it some time to hear from Amazon. You can always reach out to them. Not exactly sure how to do it without an Amazon account, but you certainly can. I see your next question here. You reached out to the help center, but still nothing. I would say give it a little more time. That's frustrating. That's been 21 days now. You can always try to reapply. I know it's frustrating, but potentially reapplying might help. Unless you, again, got an email from Amazon. Okay. All right. Answer just one more question here. Like I said, I got to get going here in just a moment, but I'm going to be back next week to answer all of your questions again live. But if I don't get any of your questions now, whether you're watching live or in the replay, I'll be able to answer those in next week's pre-submitted section. So I'll answer those first before anything else, assuming there's no like duplicate questions. But either way, feel free to drop all your comments or transfer your comments from the chat to the comment section once this video officially ends. And I'll end just on this one here. I think this is going to be really helpful for a lot of people on here. But if we go aggressive on our PPC ads and try to rank our product on main keywords, then how long does it take to rank? It really depends on the competition of that keyword, which is why I always recommend doing this for long tail keywords that are less competitive. And with those less competitive long tail keywords, it's going to rank faster. And that's assuming that you're actually being successful on those keywords. And think about it this way. I think this is the best way to answer this question. All Amazon cares about is making the customer happy. So if a customer types in mop buckets and you're selling a mop bucket, and they click your product after seeing it in the search results and they don't buy it, and this happens again and again and again, and your conversion rate on that keyword is just not working, Amazon's going to go, okay, we're not making shoppers happy by recommending this item essentially on the search results page. We're going to knock it down a few pegs and test some other products. And that's essentially what Amazon cares about, is making the customer happy. The more you make them happy, which is essentially just your conversion rate on those keywords, the more Amazon will show you. And that's why you want to give yourself more of a chance of making people happy by going after those long tail keywords in your advertising campaigns. And you want to make sure those long tail keywords are hyper relevant to your product. A lot of products are slightly different in some ways. If you're selling a bucket that's small, you don't want to just be advertising on large mop bucket or even like mop bucket, because people might be wanting a different size product than you have. So I'd really make sure that your keywords are long tail, therefore less competitive, and hyper relevant. If you want to learn more about finding those keywords, again, we have some amazing videos on our channel. I recommended it earlier, but the two videos I would watch are outrank your competitors using this 3-step method and do this to find long tail keywords. We probably have a few other videos that are helpful, but like those are the two main ones that I would watch right after this video to learn how to find those long tail keywords and to get ranking on Amazon quicker. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining. I do got to run right now. I really appreciate you guys sticking around, especially those that joined earlier on in the stream where the whole thing crashed for a little bit and we had horrible audio. I can't thank you enough for staying on. I can't thank you enough for being here each week. Make sure to join back in next Thursday. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you keep an eye out for our community posts and all of our posts that we mention regarding the next upcoming live Q&A, which will be next Thursday. But until then, I hope you guys have a great weekend and all the best with your Amazon business. We'll see you soon. Take care.